Welcome everyone to Spread X by Sideline Sports Network. I hope y'all are having a good evening. It's an exciting week, even though it's spring break week for everyone, basically, especially Florida State. So, obviously, we had a pretty huge recruiting weekend this weekend past. A lot of people are upset, which is kind of weird to me. Upset because three guys wasn't able to make it as far as former Noles go. Jalen Ramsey. Maybe you do know his excuse. Maybe it is because he got traded to the Miami Dolphins. Cam Akers didn't show up. Maybe it's because of something else that he didn't make public. Derwin James didn't show up. Maybe it's something. Maybe he couldn't make it. Maybe he just decided he didn't want to go this weekend. Don't exactly know. That's, we always cry over what we don't get. I've seen more stuff about who didn't show up from fans than who did show up. Jermaine Johnson showed up, had his ceremony. Jameis Winston showed up, threw the first pitch out at the Florida State game, also spoke to the baseball team. Deshaun Corbin showed up. Keir Thomas showed up. I didn't see much about that. I seen a whole lot about who didn't show up. So it was a lot of crying about who didn't make it instead of being excited for who did show up. I will tell y'all this. The young men that came, which most of them were asked this question, did you come because you wanted to possibly come to Florida State, see what really was going on at Florida State, or did you come because there was pros coming today? And every one of them stated, first and foremost, I showed up because I'm really considering Florida State to be where I spend my college career. It's just a bonus to meet the guys that made it to the pros that came through the program, as I'm looking to see which program is best for me. Now, you could say it's a politically correct answer. You could say that they're not going to tell you why they really came. And maybe those things are true. But maybe what they said was the truth. Regardless, we're still crying over who didn't show up versus who did, which is just strange to me. I don't get it. But tonight's episode is going to be about who did show up. And it's not going to ridicule those who didn't. Y'all see them as football stars. Y'all see them as Florida State alum. You see them as superstars maybe. They have life too, and shit happens. I don't think etting at any of them is going to make much sense. And then to et at the guy that reported that they were coming because he was told they were coming, and then they didn't show up, and now y'all going after him on Twitter, doesn't make any sense. But y'all do your thing. Do whatever it is that y'all do. If it takes former players to get players here, we have a problem. It's about what work is done at Florida State University. It's not about who came through every time. Is it a bonus for them to show up? Yes. 100% agree with that. But you had some big names show up last weekend. And you don't know why the three that didn't show up, why they didn't. So you might be barking up a tree you don't want to bark up. Or it might make you look like a real ass. Because you're complaining about three people that couldn't show up. Maybe it's because they couldn't show up. Not because they didn't want to. Not because they didn't plan to. But they just couldn't. You never know. But I'm going to bring James and Chip on. And we're going to talk about the recruits that made it here. We're going to talk about the pros that came back. And we're going to have a good show. So everybody can quit tripping over who didn't show up. Because I'm not going to trip over who didn't show up. Evening, fellas. Evening.
What's going on?
I seen Brendan Sonnone make a post about who was coming to Florida State this past weekend. Cam Akers and Jalen Ramsey and Derwin James were supposed to be three of the 7 that showed up. Well, those 3 didn't show up. Jalen Ramsey obviously got traded to the Miami Dolphins. Cam Akers didn't show up. I know why, but it ain't my place to say why. It ain't because he didn't want to show up. It's because he couldn't show up. And Derwin James, the same situation. But people think that these aren't people. They should just do what we think is best for us, and they should do what we want them to do at all times. But I'm not going to stick on that because I just seen a lot of comments today that were on Brendan Sonnone's post. And it was really weird that people were getting that upset that these 3 guys didn't show up. When Jameis showed up, Jermaine showed up, Keir Thomas showed up. There was a lot of guys that showed up. Corbin showed up. So it was just really weird that all we did was complain about who didn't make it. When Buster Posey showed up, which Buster Posey's for baseball, so if they don't care for baseball, then they don't care that he showed up. But will go down as one of the greatest Seminoles in baseball history showed up. But I don't know if that mattered to anybody because I didn't see anything about it. I didn't see people get all excited about it, which they should have because we retired his jersey. You had a ceremony for Jermaine Johnson for his 2021 season here at Florida State. They put his brick in front of the Moore Center. I mean, I thought it was an amazing weekend, but I'm not all the other fans. So the amount of 2024, 2025 recruits that showed up proved that of how great it was. But Kam Davis came back for his 9th time and had a blast. He stayed 2 days and is now talking about shutting his recruitment completely down. Even though he's already verbally committed to Florida State, there was some stuff that he might be interested in Georgia or LSU or somebody to that nature. And now he's talking about shutting his recruitment all the way down and not taking phone calls or taking any messages. So something that weekend worked. Luke Kromenhoek showed up. He got to talk with all of the Florida State current quarterbacks. He also got to meet Jameis Winston and chop it up with him about what it means to go to Florida State. It's not necessarily that the coach is what you're committing to. You're committing to the legacy of what Florida State has done. And that basically coaches come and go, but Florida State's legacy never dies because we're unconquered. So he gave him some very wise words, gave a lot of them very wise words, but definitely Luke. In my opinion, he practiced his speech on Luke before the speech happened, and he did a very good job of it because it excited a lot of people to hear Jameis talk about Florida State University the way that he did. And then Corbin did something very similar in the indoor facility that was really cool as far as what he said to the athletes. Then you had 4-star safety Jordan Pry that showed up and was ecstatic the entire time he was there. And then you had the commit. Let me see so I don't lose my notes. The FSU commit, the kicker, Jake Weinberg, he was there. 5-star cornerback Charles Lester III. 2025 5-star QB Michael. I'm not saying his last name. 5-star linebacker Jadon Perlotte was there. He's a Georgia commit. Then you've got 2025 5-star safety DJ Pickett. 2025 5-star wide receiver Caleb Cunningham. 2025 5-star offensive tackle Mason Short. Then you had 4-star defensive lineman Kamarion Franklin, 4-star wide receiver BJ Gibson, 4-star wide receiver James Madison II, 4-star offensive lineman Jason Zandamela, 4-star linebacker Payton Pierce, 4-star defensive end LJ McCray, 4-star safety Jarvis Boatwright, and 4-star offensive tackle Fletcher Westphal, which isn't all of them. But I just named, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of them. Multiple 5-stars, multiple high 4-stars. And there was more. Way more. Like 39 or 40. It was something like that. It was a lot of kids that came. And they had a very good time. I mean, you had Mike Norvell. Yeah, moving on to what happened during the weekend. You had Jameis Winston that gave the speech that I was talking about and then threw the first pitch out. Buster Posey was honored and his jersey was officially retired. Jermaine Johnson was honored with an All-American break in front of the Moore Center. Mike Norvell put up his iconic gray hoodie, signed, up for auction to the Keep Climbing Foundation, and he will match the donation of the highest bidder. He's just showing everybody he's not superstitious, is what I think, personally. Or that's the one he uses at practice, and the real one sitting in his closet ain't been washed. And he's really superstitious. One of the two. So he's not lying. It gets wore team happenings. But we'll see. But 2026 athlete Jonah Winston received an offer from FSU during the Legacy Weekend. So there's a lot of good things that happened for former Noles, future Noles, past Noles. Like an entire weekend of just a whole lot of good shit happening. And we got a whole bunch of fans that just lost their mind because 3 guys didn't get to show up. Luckily, these recruits were excited, and luckily they were happy with what took place at Florida State University this past weekend and acted as if nothing was wrong. Or maybe they didn't have to act. Maybe nothing was wrong. Maybe it was amazing. Maybe there was some very good things that took place. That's the way I see it, because I didn't hear about anybody griping. I heard about fans that didn't even go there gripe. I heard about that. But I didn't hear anything about the guys being mad because somebody didn't show up, or the administration being mad because they didn't show up, or Norvell being mad because they didn't show up. I didn't hear any of that. So they tried to say, you know, they did come out with a comment that Lester almost committed this weekend. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know what almost committing means. I don't know if he means he was about to pop off and just say it. I don't know exactly what that means, but he's supposedly very close to committing. Said that he had a great time when he talked to Jameis and basically just lit him back on fire for what he was already looking at. So a lot of great things happened, but everybody steered to the left. They ran off the road because they felt like they had a flat tire. I don't know. But Florida State's recruiting at a very high level for the 2024 class. We've had multiple 5-star linebackers on campus since I said what I said. And that could be just the fact of it was already happening. Ain't got nothing to do with what I said. I think that Florida State is doing a phenomenal job. Atkins is really heating up on the recruiting trail, who he's going after as far as offensive tackles go, who he got as a guard potentially committed. See, there's certain things that these kids do that we can't talk about. So there's a lot more good news that came out of this weekend than what we get to talk about because they don't want it known. And that's perfectly fine. Is it working?
Yes.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to reset. Like this, the IT thing. Just have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? Yeah,
right.
We did that. It worked. I don't even know where we were at. I had some stuff on some of the things. All I know is it was a great weekend, regardless of who showed up. So yeah.
You know, there was Noles that showed up from back in the day, 80s, that no one talked about. There was guys that showed up from the first Bobby Bowden in the 70s. Well, excuse me, the first winning season team that showed up. And there was so many I haven't personally seen recruits react that way at Florida State since Jimbo was here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Jimbo had everybody coming back. That's when he had Go ahead.
One of the guys that I know very well in this recruiting that I've got a chance to meet, mainly because of who he trained with more than anything else, would be Luke Kromenhoek. We call him Hawk. And I don't do the weird stuff, not hunting down kids. I talk to the adults. Me and the dad, John's great, phenomenal guy, played linebacker at UMass, by the way. Tough as nails, has a son at I think Maritime Academy that plays football there. He just raved about the whole weekend. Nobody talked about. He just talked so highly of Jameis and how Jameis embodies everything that we want from when he speaks about Noles. And I think that's probably the thing that's missing over everything. And it's not that Jalen and Derwin wouldn't do that. I mean, I got a chance to know. I was actually talking with Lamont, Jalen's dad, a little bit earlier, who's excited about him being back in Florida because that's where he's trying to relocate to. But they'll be on board when it's time to be on board. Right now, they're flourishing in the league. They're doing stuff. They're being young millionaires, and I can't knock them. I might not be trying to get to Tallahassee that much if I had more to do too when I was their age, but they'll come when needed. But I think having guys that can adequately discuss what it means to be a Seminole, I think is more important than just having the who's who of there. And I heard you bring up the old heads, man. Let me tell you, doing the legacy walk as many times as I got a chance to do it the past 2 years, it's not even the Marvin Joneses. It's not the Corey Simons. It's not those guys. I like meeting the guys from the 69 team, the 70 team, the team that broke the segregation barriers, and listening to those guys talk and listening to who they are and the things like that. Those are the things that I know for me and for the current players reinforce what it is. And those guys talk about it so well that I can see that being very, very good from a recruiting standpoint. And even with Buster Posey, who's probably, I'd say arguably the best college baseball player in our generation, not at Florida State, overall. It's a shame he never won a World Series, but in college.
Oh,
but
no,
the thing is
I got
that's about college. Yeah, college World Series. Yeah, that's why I want to make sure I emphasize that. But it's a shame that, you didn't do that. But when you're surrounded by that much greatness, it is very hard to not be swayed. But if you look at the way Mike Norvell and Florida State has recruited over the past 3 years, it's never a trickle. And what happens is when you commit in bunches, it creates a momentum that allows people that you might not have thought were ready to pull the trigger to start pulling the trigger. And if you really look at how everything is aiming, really pay attention to the spring game, and then look at how many of these kids are taking their unofficial visits, and then their official visits will be in the summer. So as long as things are moving the way they're moving, I think the spring game will have some things happen at camp. But I really think that last weekend in July, I think we'll have most of the 24, and believe it or not, a lot of the 25 class in place before you even know it. So, I mean, all that being said, who cares who didn't show up? I tell people, people were asking me if I was going. I'm like, man, no, I was supposed to be there, but then some things canceled. I enjoyed sleep for the first time in quite some time. I had no kids and nobody else was here, so I was just sleeping. So, but yeah, that's I think all in all. Oh, and I was going to talk about Sonome, and it is unfortunate. It's not his fault. He did not pick up the phone and tell Jalen and Derwin, hey, I don't want y'all to come. I done put this out here. But what I will say is this. And what we need to change, and I love what you're doing, Chris. I love what Chip's doing. I love what a lot of other guys are doing. Now, Chip is hilarious in his Facebook stories. That's where he gets his trolling in. I love it. I love it. But you can't be a part of a culture that started trolling and then cry when the culture comes back to you. You set the tone. It wasn't just him, but 247 and a lot of these other guys set the tone. So when you put something out there, and it doesn't happen, regardless of if it's your fault and regardless of if it was right at the time you reported. Remember, some of us remember when you used to cheer when other people got things wrong. So you're just getting a little bit of a taste of what you got, but you can always put it on mute. And when you get something wrong, just don't acknowledge it. You got enough. I mean, honestly, that wasn't even your worst take of the weekend. The worst take was saying our defense was smaller. When there's, but you got to listen to it and read into it. But like, it's okay. It'll be all right. You can't be thin-skinned in this business. I'm learning that.
Yeah, and here's my debate on this. I 100% agree that those who dish it out have to take it. But I also know, because I asked the question, I'm like, hey, man, what happened? Because, I just didn't release it. I didn't come out saying Cam Akers is coming, Derwin's coming. I said sometime in March is what I was told. Now, they gave out the exact date, time, all of that. And when I say they, I'm talking about Florida State's administration. And then when they tell you, well, they're not coming, but we can't tell you why. So they want to rebuttal and say, media wants to go, oh, wait, they're not coming. Oh, no, you can't say that. Just let it play out because somebody might show up. So it kind of ties your hands together as media goes. But I 100% agree that if you're going to dish it out and you're going to talk about others that get it wrong, then you got to take it when you get it wrong. Regardless of how you're wrong, you still got to take it because you're going to get it. I promise you on Twitter you're going to get it. I don't care what else happens. Twitter will make sure that you get it. I do want to call out Jeff Hill real quick for the $10 donation. And then we had a $4 donation, super sticker from William McMillan. And then we had a $20 super sticker from Michael Bartz. I'm going to make sure there's not another one before I stop. Hide that.
James, you talk about my Facebook stories. I do that just for pure entertainment. I want to see just who reacts. I can tell you in my career, if you're going to, and you got to pardon my language on this, if you're going to talk shit, you better be able to take it. But just know when you give it back to me, I'm going to come hard in the paint on you. That's how I've looked at this whole, podcast thing now, because you'll get people on that will run their mouth about other podcasts just for strict, well, yeah, Chris, you got it a lot. Trust me. I know that for a fact, but they do it just for pure reaction to see who they can pull over, get people talking. But you got to have more than 2 or 3 people viewing it to actually talk about it.
Look, here's my thing. I have no love lost with the administration at Florida State. We kind of have like a respect relationship, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell you everything relationship, because there was a certain staff member that told me that I had a mom and pop podcast, and I never get anybody on this podcast that mattered, but I could keep doing my hobby and all this other bullshit. And now Wednesday, athletic director Michael Offer's coming on. So I'm not even going to talk about who's been on before. I'm just talking about who's coming this week. So the reason that I say that I think you back off of Brendan Sonnone a little bit is because he's doing what he's told to do from who he works for. By get it out as fast as you can, get it out first, which usually bites guys in the ass. Like, others have done it. War Chants had to do it. It doesn't work out, then they're wrong. 247s had to do it, and then they're wrong. That's why I don't say those things until it happens, because I don't care about being first. And everybody thinks that's BS, but I really don't. I just want it to be right. I don't care anything about if I'm first. So they're doing a job. I don't work for anybody. James doesn't work for me. Chip doesn't work for me. We do this together. So no one does what they're told as far as this goes, because you can see that I have a different outlook on the situation than even what James said down at the bottom or what Chip has said. I'm not after the guy. I'm after the way that the media does business as far as the bigger guys, and I'm against what you're allowed to say and not say from what Florida State's administration gives you. And that's all colleges, not just Florida State. But they give you the reason to say, don't say nothing. And that's what killed me. Well, they just don't tell me then. Don't tell me why they're not showing up. You're going to want to say it. So it's like on the tip of their tongue, they want to say it, but they can't. But eventually it's going to bite somebody in the ass because they're going to be getting hit so hard. People will react in emotion. And they're eventually going to pop off one day and say what they know. And then there's a whole other stream of shit that happens. But I'm not ever going to deal with that. So I don't personally care who ruins their career. I just think that everybody should work as a team as we want our team to work. And, you know, we were listening to Brian Stork. We had him on a space last Friday. And he talked all the way down to the janitors, the lunch ladies, the media. He said everybody was working as one. He said the media was on board with everything that we were doing. They were reporting things the way that they were asked to report things, nothing more, nothing less, for the most part. He said there were some, but for the most part, there was everybody was close to the team. They all reported stuff the right way. Everybody was working as one team. I don't know if that's what's happening in Florida State right now. I think it's close. And there's only so much that Norvell and Alford can do. Other leaders of these other places have to stand up and say, look, we're going to do what's best for Florida State regardless. And I don't know if everybody else is selfless enough to not worry about getting the information out first, or even possibly putting out the wrong content because they want to be first. But for some reason, it could happen. I'm just hoping that it does soon, because I don't like – the thing that gets me is when kids say, I didn't want to do this, but I felt like I had to, or I was forced to. Or y'all remember, I just called out media like an episode or two ago for surrounding these kids like vultures. So I'm not defending the media. I am in this case because I know what they were told. But in the last case where they were circling and like a vulture, the beat writers, I said something about it. So my thing is, whoever's wrong, that's what I'm gonna say was wrong. Whoever was right, I'm gonna say was right. So that's why I kind of don't blame media for this one. But I really don't care as long as the recruits had a good time, which when me talking to them, they had an amazing time. Like James just said with Luke, someone asked if we were going to be able to hold on to Jordan Pride. It looks good right now. I will say that they're recruiting him very hard, and he has enjoyed every time that he's came. And he's also supposed to take an official here this summer, and he's also coming for the spring game. And like what James is saying, like y'all hear us say when it gets close to time, follow the visits. These kids are already lined up through summer as far as their official visit goes. So that's a very good sign. Kind of listen to the guy that got recruited.
I'll say this too, man. Like I want whoever wants to come to Florida State, right? That being said, if you look at the boards and how they line up and the way that a lot of these recruits are talking about Florida State, man, perfect example. I'm not saying this happened to Cam, but this is my thoughts on what happened to Cam. Cam, we want you to be here. You're a tough guy. You're probably going to be a day one contributor, but you either in or you out. And that's probably what they're going to start telling these guys, because there's some guys that are warming up to Florida State in the position coaches. And even then, like I want to make sure that I'm liking the activity of what Randy Shannon is doing.
Yep.
Like this kid from Texas, man, that's a cap right there. On God. If I can get this 2023 going away, I will legitimately have a cap scholarship that we're going to give out. It's cold ass Pilgrim. They're gonna give it out to the baddest white player right now. Camden Fryer's getting one, and then this kid right here. If that's what it takes to get him from Texas, that kid is bad, man. I went and watched that film. I've been I've been critical of Randy and his recruitment. But, man, you got to just look at almost every position. 2025, you got my kid, Tramel Jones, who looks like he wants to come. But the number one quarterback in the nation is now starting to say that he feels like he's a priority for 2025. So it's going to be a lot of like, hey, you either in or you ain't. And we're cool with that. And so if Pride continues to dip his toe, other places, they may take a commitment, and then when it's all said and done, they might be asking guys or telling guys that, hey, you can sign that paperwork, but it might be better for you or in your best interest to go look elsewhere. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
And I want to add to this. I don't know if there's a coach, and I'm saying this with maybe Norvell, but I don't know if there's a coach that's recruiting for the 2024 class better than Luke Kromenhoek. Every athlete I talk to, they've heard from Kromenhoek. Every one of them. And he tells them exactly what to expect, tells them why it's a special place, tells them why Florida State's on the trajectory to come back to be what they were previous, and why they can still do it with whatever mishaps you may have seen in the past few years, and why it's not what it was even a couple of years ago. Not just based off, and he tells them, not just based off of the 10-win season we just had. It's all about what culture is now there at Florida State. The first time that he visited, I think he was a freshman, and he said he didn't really feel like the culture was that great at Florida State. It felt like people were kind of divided. And now, since we've gotten who we need in here, characteristic-wise, because to me it seems like Norvell basically gets guys that are decent football players, but they have the best character ability, and he makes them a better football player. And instead of vice versa, where you've got a head case that can play lights out. He don't want to take on the project of the head case. He would rather get the smarter young man that wants to do this the right way and show him the best ways to get better. So I think a lot of the recruits are seeing that, and you got to base it off of like for instance, guys, past Noles as far as who we're playing there, James. If y'all don't think that he's not, you don't think that he has talked to Kromenhoek's parents, Pride's parents, and current guys that are on the team's parents, like people want to know, hey man, what is this Florida State thing about? Well, who the hell is better to ask than someone that played here, that went through the process, regardless of, it's easy questions like, how dangerous is it? Is it a nice college life? Are my kids going to get in trouble easily? Is this going to happen? They're going to ask a bunch of different questions. Well, they're going to ask it to people that matter. Don't ask me. I didn't go to Florida State. You'd have to ask James. He played there. Or you have to ask people like Lamont Sr. You have to ask people like that, not me. I didn't play at Florida State. I will tell you that I would put on blinders regardless of what was going on in Tallahassee and say it was the greatest place on earth because I'm biased. But coming from parents and coming from someone that wants their son or daughter to be in the safest possible place that they can be because they're not there, they take people's credibility as far as James and all these former players, current players that are currently there. They take their advice, not media, not the school itself, but guys that went through it. Because that question was asked, James. They was like, well, if Tallahassee doesn't get their crime rate under control, then no one's going to come here. That was an article that Tallahassee Democrat. I take that back. It was not Tallahassee Democrat. It was someone else. But someone put out an article stating that if Tallahassee doesn't get their crime rate under control, no one's going to go there.
Listen,
it's not there.
There's no city in America that's 100% crime free. No major metro. And Tallahassee's not a major metro, but it's not a country town that people think. But what you have to look at, and this is what I tell people, just so they know, Tallahassee is 3 cities, maybe even 4.
Yeah.
There is a square, we call it a college square, that you will more than likely never have to go outside of. Maybe go to the Walmart on Tennessee Street once, but like literally if you stay between Tennessee Street and Tennessee runs parallel to Monroe. So Tennessee Street and go down, even go over to FAMU, like in capital, like you'll never have to worry about the city and the quote unquote. You'll worry about normal college campus crime that happens everywhere. But as far as the city I live in, Jacksonville is supposedly a rough place, but I know where to stay away from. I don't go looking for stuff. So if I stay where I'm blessed to be living, ain't got to worry about that. If you stay where you're at, and then even if you venture out in the town, ask locals. I tell people all the time, like, hey, you know, if you're going this side of town, go here. Go talk to this person. You might not want to go over there if you're not from around here. You know, it's different things. Any city. Miami is tough. There is a projects in every city in America. No matter what it is, there's a project somewhere. So like to act like Tallahassee is the wild, wild west is quite inaccurate. It has its issues, no different than everywhere else. But it's actually, I always joke with people, like, if I could really figure this thing out, I like Jacksonville. I really like Jacksonville. But I would love to see my son go to Florida High, go to my alma mater and be there. I would move back to Tallahassee. I actually really enjoy the city. And you're talking to a guy who actually came from out of the hood in Tallahassee, an area that's actually really known in that city. Perfect example. I'm going to knock on wood because this will be the 4th annual. We do a book bag drive and food distribution smack dab in the hood. It's only one way in and one way out of that neighborhood. It's one of the supposed roughest areas. We don't have any police presence. We don't have anything, and nothing happens. Nobody's been robbed. Nobody's been shot. Nobody's had anything bad happen to them besides think the bananas were bad one year, but we got that fixed. But that's the worst thing. So I can tell you this. I don't think I can get away with that in Miami. I don't think I can get away with that in other places. But if you're afraid, then, you know, the other part, if you want to play pro, name me a pro stadium that's not in the hood. I'll wait. Maybe where the Patriots are at, because they built a whole new city around that. But everywhere else, check it out. When I went to New Orleans, smack dab in the hood. So just things that I've noticed.
Chip, what do you think about how many of just the majority of the athletes that showed up? What do you think that means for Florida State as far as recruiting goes? Are we moving in the right direction from your point of view?
Oh, it just means that people on the outside of culture that it's brought, it has slowly spilled over from you really noticed it midway through 21 season. And then it's just been constant tsunami wave that way. It's when you watch the 2021 start turning around into what Norvell was preaching, it's just been a wave going away. Now you're hearing recruit talk, and then you see how well, even in the transfer, he's transfer portal compared to any of the other universities. And don't let them, they say, oh, on the transfer portal. Every year you're going to have to go in there, because every year you're most likely going to have at least a 1 or 2 position need. And there's going to be a player that's going to be disgruntled somewhere that enters the transfer portal. But no, you just, I wasn't there this weekend to chop it up with a lot of the former Noles, but you see Jameis's progression. Jameis we all know that, but you look at who he is now. Dude, he's an outstanding. Now I'm not going to say young man. He's an outstanding man. I think it's a crying shame what happened with him this last New Orleans, but that's another story for another time.
I agree. I will say this. I went to Gainesville last year, or was it the year before? Year before, when Florida State played, or I don't know what fucking year it was. When we played Florida last at their home. In Gainesville, I didn't see anything in Tallahassee that looked that bad. And I'm not saying it because it's the Gators. I'm just being dead honest. I parked in between, like literally, and this is where the majority of people were parking. I was there early. We were parking in between projects. And what I mean by that is the guy told me, give me $20 to watch your car. And I was like, what? He's like, if you don't want shit stolen out of your car, you might want to give me $20. And I was like, you know what? It's $20. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he's just going to get $20. When I got back to that car, he was still sitting on his porch. My car didn't get touched. The guy beside me, that car got robbed. And that's the truth. I literally witnessed it myself. So I've never experienced that at Tallahassee. Not once. I didn't go to Miami's game because fans threatened my life multiple times. Probably nothing would have happened, but I got 3 kids to think about. So I didn't go. No one's ever threatened my life in Tally, nor have I ever seen anyone threaten anyone's life that goes to Tallahassee, personally. But with that, like James said, there isn't a city in America, or probably anywhere, that doesn't have some part of it being dangerous. I've never been to a city, small or big, that's just 100% safe. The ones that you think are 100% safe have a tunnel underneath their house that's got 50 women underneath their houses, and they just ain't been caught yet. Watch the Netflix stuff. I mean, you'll see it. So, I mean, and they're in the middle of nowhere, Missouri or Illinois or something to that nature. 4 houses in the whole city. Population 22. Well, they're wrong because there's 85 women below dude's garage.
Yeah, you just said that reminded me of the movie Barbarian.
Yeah.
Because that's what went on in that.
So, I mean, like, Jameis is Jameis. Like, I say that the same way that people say Dion is Dion. Jameis is the same guy, just more matured now than he was when he was here. But Jameis always had the way to get everybody riled up, get everybody excited about what was going on. We've seen it in the locker room, the halftime for when they were in the BCS National Championship, talking about that they were going to go get the W regardless of what they were down by, etc. And then the one where if we're going to do it big, or if we're going to do it, then we're going to do it big, then whatever. All the stuff that he says. So he knows how to get people fired up. He's usually the leader on whichever team that he's playing for. He's definitely the mouthy leader regardless of who's in front of him. Even when Drew Brees was in front of him, he was still the loud one. I think that's all you needed to come back. I don't think you had to have everybody come back. But I get it. They said they were coming. Other people said they were coming. They didn't show up. You want an explanation. Just don't blame the people that can't give it to you. It's not their fault. We are going to have Michael Alford on Wednesday for everyone that is a YouTube member at Spear Addicts. If you are not a YouTube member, you will get it Thursday at 7:30. So our show is going to be pre-recorded for the first time since we've done this, which technically we're going to be doing it live, but everyone won't see it until Thursday. All the members will see it Wednesday if they get on and watch it, which all of them are telling me they are. And they're excited because they get something first, other than football cards or presents. So we'll see how it goes. I know that we're going to ask questions of Michael Alford that other people don't ask. James had quoted that earlier in a tweet, which is 100% true. I think that we ask the questions that matter to everyone. I think James does a very good job of articulating the reason that he asks the questions, how it really answers a multitude of things instead of just one key focal point. So I think it's going to be a very exciting interview with Michael Alford. I'm working on a couple of coaches that we're going to have come on. Here's the funniest part about this interview. I was not smart enough to set up Michael Alford's interview on spring break when we're not having practice. It just happened that way. I really didn't plan this. It was like I was told, hey, this is his first available date. I said, I'll take it. This is his time. I'll take it. And so happens it's the week that everyone's not playing football. James, I don't know if you're aware of the situation that's going on in the XFL, but the Orlando Guardians are the worst team in the XFL. And a former Noel T-Buck is the head coach. And people are now hashtagging fire T-Buck. Any comments?
T-Buck is, one, these guys don't pick the team. And it's a reason why guys are in the XFL. The GMs try to do a good job of bringing in the best collection of talent. And you have a short amount of time to get them. One of my former teammates, Tony Carter, is the DC. You had a guy where he clearly said, you need to get off the field, and the guy tried to stay on the field, which shows a clear lack of disrespect. But I will say T-Buck has never been a head coach on any level, so this was it's tough to learn on the go no matter how you feel. This is a professional sport because they are getting paid to be able to play this at a level that's decent enough for them to be able to live like a high-paid American. I think you can't just get rid of somebody a few games in, and I'm going to level with you. They're not going to win a championship this year. But I would say you give a coach a year or two, you give him a year to get under his belt, and if they're doing the same things next year, then of course you have to look for other options. But, I mean, I can promise you this, and I guess this could go for any coach, but I'm willing to bet everything in my my high interest savings account, which is a lot, that T-Buck doesn't go every Monday and say, you know what, I'm ready to lose this week. I'm going to try to do everything to lose. What plays can I call that are going to guarantee to let the offense score on the first play? What play can I guarantee that, okay, yeah, this offense is going to get stopped by that defense? Life's too short for you to spend that much amount of time, and T-Buck's too accomplished of a coach, of a player, of a father, of a man to go in and try to be mediocre forever. So I think he'd step down before it even got to that point. But people don't. This is just one of those things. You don't care that much about the XFL. You don't have roots to it. Like, you can't care that much to like do hashtags of fire T-Buck. The XFL, and then I think the USFL is what's coming up after that. Their sole purpose is to give us some semblance of football until September rolls around. I don't really care if the Guardians win every game. I don't know what the other team's name. I know there's a team in St. Louis, I think. I don't really know what else is going on. But I know if I happen to flip on the TV and there's a ball and the ball is being thrown forward, I'm going to probably sit there and watch it, and I'm just going to shut up and be grateful that the sport made by the gods is actually being played in some semblance. Because I remember as a kid, this is the most lonely time. When basketball is over, all we have is baseball highlights. And yeah, some of y'all might like that, but I hated that part of my life growing up on ESPN, having to watch have them stretch out a minute of highlights for a game that was 3-1. It's not fun.
No, the one that got me, baseball was bad, but when they would throw in some NASCAR here and there, I was like, they're just going left, man. I get it's hard. I'm not saying this is an easy job. I'm just saying, like, I don't know anything about NASCAR and don't care. And then the whole time of year, I'm just like, they're really doing highlights on NASCAR. This guy started in 22nd and he made it to 21st. That's great. He's got a point.
Yeah, I'll be honest with y'all both. NASCAR almost makes me ashamed to be white. Seriously, that's
Oh my god!
Have you seen? I said with both everybody that is watching. Seriously, it's true. Like, well, let's talk about the XFL though.
Oh, please.
Rock doing. Like, I like what it's starting to become. I think for growth with that in the USFL. You're welcome, by the way.
Oh my god. Hunter Richmond said, call him after the show, Chip.
All right.
I don't know if it's about the comment or what, but oh Lord, that brought tears.
Oh, that caught me completely off guard. That was great. Not much catches me off guard, but that one got me.
That got me big time. I was not expecting when he said NASCAR.
Facebook stories, y'all should expect something like that.
You just never did it before. That's the comfort I'm looking for. Say it all the time. I don't care.
Oh, man.
But all in all, I think Florida State did a really good job this weekend. Let me make sure. Oh, Dave Rodriguez, which I threw up on the screen earlier, but I didn't respond to him. He said, no questions, just support for my guys. He gave us a $5 donation. Really appreciate that. My thing about the XFL is we've got, like, DeAndre Francois is one of the quarterbacks on the team. They had to get rid of a quarterback. I forget what his name is, but he was giving the other team the plays before they played the game. And I was told there was a money exchange, but that was not in the report on ESPN. But I was told, because I went to the Camping World or whatever, and where they were talking about it, and they said that there was a money exchange that he was getting paid extra to give the plays over to the other team. Well, he gave the plays over for sure because T-Buck dropped him off the team and all kinds of stuff happened. But I'm not going to say that that's the only reason that the Guardians are losing. I'll just say that can't help you. There's no way that helps if they have your entire playbook. And supposedly it wasn't just some plays, it was the entire playbook. So
it's not even just the playbook. It's like if they know your calls and your
right.
checks, like if they know all of those things, man, it's like no good way to like unlearn everything and then relearn everything. It's very difficult. So, you know, it is what it is.
Bless you.
Thank you.
But I know that Norvell was fired up this weekend. I don't know how he stayed fired up because he ran like a rag doll like everywhere. They didn't stop practicing. They even did some type of workouts with some of the recruits. They had the ceremony for Jermaine. He had talked to Jameis multiple times, went and spoke with Buster Posey. Like, the man never stopped. He didn't miss one portion of an event. How he timed it to be at every event on time, I don't know how he did it because some of them were only 8 to 12 minutes apart. But he was at every one of them. Didn't miss a lick. And as soon as he was done with everything, I swear to y'all, and the guys got it on the recording, it's 9 o'clock at night. And he said, there's a clip of it. I just can't put it up here because I don't want it to say that it's whatever it is, copyrighted. But he literally says, because someone added music to it, but he literally says good morning at 9 o'clock at night on the video. He tells dude good morning. It's 9 p.m. And the guy on the video said, did Coach Norvell just say good morning at 9 o'clock at night? He always does. I don't care what time it is. But I know that he was fired up for this weekend. He met almost every recruit at the front door of the Moore Center. He was the lead in workouts for like the first 3 sessions. It was really wild how he was able to just continue to put that type of fuel out and just keep pushing through all of it. And he had been there since I want to say it was 5:30 in the morning. And it's 9 o'clock at night, and he's half-assed jogging back to the Moore Center. So I don't think we could get anybody with more energy. Coach out there that has more energy than him. And I think that the young people really, it draws them in, that he will show you that he doesn't stop, that he's going to never stop on you and never stop on the program. He just doesn't have it in him. And that might be something to do with the military. I don't know. My grandpas were in the military. My uncles were in the military, and they didn't run around anywhere. They were a little bit older than Mike, but they didn't run anywhere. Half of them crawled. So to see that man do what he does, the other day when he did that last race, I think it was Thursday, he did the last race with the defensive lineman. Basically, the whole team took off. I said, enjoy it while you can, Mike. A couple more years, your ass ain't going to be doing that. So he's getting it while he can. So I appreciate the energy. I appreciate what he's doing. I think that the coaching staff, especially, huge shout out to here I go missing his name again, Randy Shannon, because I think he's heated up the linebacker recruiting while all I was asking for. Coincidence, I believe, but I think he's doing a phenomenal job. I think he's doing really well now. I want to thank Michael Bartz for another $10 donation for the super sticker. I'll throw it up there so everybody can see it. But I've got about 4 minutes left. James, that interview Wednesday, Chip, if you can make it, by all means, please do. It's going to be kind of hard, though. It's at 10:30 in the morning on Wednesday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
I'll
be there.
But I do appreciate y'all coming on. Chip, y'all, if you were not watching the show and Chip just said what makes you ashamed to be white or makes him ashamed to be white, go back and watch the show a couple minutes back, probably about 6 minutes now. And then go make sure that you follow him on Facebook. His group is Unconquered 850. Make sure that you go check it out. If you want to see him on Twitter or Instagram, it's Chip Westerly 9. James is still, but he's much closer. But he's still wanting people to go to his YouTube, which is, I don't want to say it wrong.
Den Media Group, at Den Media Group. We're trying to get to 2,000. So, I mean, I even upped the ante. I think we're at 1,730. So we'll give out, if we get to 2,000 by Wednesday show, we'll get, I'll give away $270 because we're 270 away. So not just $200. We'll give away $270 if we get to that by then, and so on and so on. So hopefully we'll get that soon. Look, if you like it, consider being a member. And then if we can get that done, then I can start really promoting the spring game tailgate and everything else. So that'd be dope.
Well, as usual, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on. I'm going to finish this thing off real quick, answer these last few questions. Y'all have a good evening and go Noles. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We had a blast. Make sure that you share this video. Whether you share it on Facebook, whether you share it on Twitter, Instagram. If you do it on all three, I'll send you a gift. Don't know what the gift is. Probably cards. But if you do it on all three, I will send you a gift. And I'll make it even better. I will send a big gift to one of you if you share it on all three. If you can't share it on all three because you don't have all three, make one. That's all I can tell you. But if you share it on all three platforms, I will send you a gift. Just send me a picture that you shared it on all three, and I will send you a gift. I might need your address. But here come Wednesday at 10:30 in the morning. We will have Michael Alford on, the athletic director at Florida State. Very, very excited for this interview. Alford's a wonderful human being. Hell of an athletic director. Might go down as one of the best. I'm going to answer this question real quick, which is completely off the subject. But since the comments have came out in the situation with Pittman, where he's going to be out 4 to 6 months because of a hip injury, guys, all I can tell you is Winston Wright is amazing. You're not gonna lose production, I promise. And I can say that with full 100% confidence. Winston Wright will be able to give you the production that's needed. Does that mean that Pittman won't be missed? Absolutely, he'll be missed. Because I don't know that Winston can block like Pittman. I know that Winston with the ball in his hand is very dynamic, though. Very fast, great punt returner, great slot receiver. So the only thing that you might lose out on is blocking that Pittman does. Pittman's not a huge being, but he's stout, and he does block well. So I don't know about Winston as far as blocking, but you will not lose production if Pittman's out.